beam. If I get a bite, this will drop and you will be in total darkness for a while. But that's okay. That's kind of what we do here. Anyways, we have both good news and bad news on the crypto front, like both good and bad news. The good news being that Trump has once again said, yeah, Trump has once again said that the war is about to end. The bad news, Iran has said the opposite. They've issued a warning for the Mendeb Strait. That is the strait that connects the outer Gulf to the Red Sea. So they are actually issuing a live warning for ships basically trying to transverse into the Red Sea. And that's really bad because that's the first step. Hey, that is the first step for them. That is literally the first step for them to actually shut off Red Sea access. And if they shut off Red Sea access, then that's bad news for everyone involved. It's an early stream. I'm out fishing. Want to get some stuff in before I I want to get some stuff in before the maybe before during when the fish actually hit. But yeah, I have a sunscreen on because I've been out here for a while since it was before dark. But yeah, they issue so there's good news and bad news coming in, definitely. Both good news and bad news coming in. Guys, please hit the likes, man. There's both good news and bad news coming in. Once again, Trump has said the war is going to end soon, but unfortunately, Iran has actually issued a basically a warning for travel through the Red Sea. And that's very, very bad because the Red Sea is critical for commerce. About 20% of our oil goes through the Strait of Hormuz, but about 40% goes to the Red Sea. So if one of Iran's commanders has actually said that he's warned ships of traveling through the strait that connects the outer Gulf to the Red Sea, and if he stops that, then prices are going to go way, way high. Obviously, Donald Trump is not going to say the same thing. Donald Trump says the war is going, as he calls it, swimmingly and should be over soon. Obviously, the new ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon has given him more hope, but that doesn't really account for the fact that if they start shooting ships that go into the Red Sea, this could get very, very ugly very quickly. Because the Red Sea, that commerce is about twice as much as the Persian Gulf, and you really, really don't want that happening. Because if that happens, man, you are in if they do that, you are in trouble, and we could definitely be in trouble if they start really closing off the Red Sea. Iran is kind of seeing maybe closing off the Strait of Hormuz is not enough, but we can tough this out. We'll close the rest. We'll close the rest of that area as well. And the rest of that area is definitely within the range of their missiles and drones. And I don't know if the U.S. can protect merchant ships through that area, honestly. And yes, some people are but they're just buying from the U.S. now. Yes, they are buying from the U.S., but there's a problem with that, and the U.S. can't actually supply the rest of the world. And if you're a U.S. customer, you're basically competing for gas against foreign people that are willing to pay a lot for gas because they're kind of desperate. So more gas and my gas is going to cost more in the months to come unless they can get some kind of settlement. And once again, that Europe and the Gulf. Let me see if there's actually a bite over there. I don't think so. Nope. Europe and the Gulf has given a 6 month timeline. Europe and the Gulf has given a 6 month timeline um, on when they think the situation can get resolved. So they're not too optimistic about things getting resolved within a week or two. And remember, the ceasefire does actually end on Tuesday, and they're actually calling for Europe is actually calling for an extension to the ceasefire. Europe is definitely calling for an extension of the ceasefire. And they want the ceasefire to actually extend for 6 months because they believe that's how long. And it's not only Europe, it's the Gulf states as well. The Gulf states believe that it's going to take that long uh, for the ceasefire. And obviously, they want access to the Strait of Hormuz so they can actually sell their oil. Um, so, yeah, that's the good news and the bad news for crypto. Good news being that once again, Trump says the war is going to end soon, and according to him, because a lot of people still believe Trump for some odd reason, the war is going swimmingly. The bad news for us is that like Iran has actually issued like a travel warning for the Red Sea altogether. I don't expect oil to hit like 150, but I do actually expect oil to hit a little bit higher than now. Like I would say like 125, 130 is definitely possible. We could like break a new all-time high, which would be all 150, but that shouldn't last long because as we've seen, like Trump essentially just panics anytime. Trump really just panics like anytime oil gets like, above like 110 and he tries to say something to calm down the market. And eventually, I think eventually, if Iran doesn't play ball, he will probably cave because this is really affecting his approval ratings a lot. Not just a little bit, a lot. So I do think like, there's only so much political like price that he's willing to pay to like, blockade and counter blockade. Obviously, he's like continuously threatening Iran to blow them up and stuff. But obviously that's also not really working at all. And I think everyone knows that it's not working at all for him to actually like threaten Iran. So it's kind of a weird situation where he's trying to bluff, but everyone knows that he's act like it's a weird situation because he's trying to bluff, but the problem is everyone knows he's bluffing. And like the thing is like he's kind of constrained because he is really constrained because everyone knows he's bluffing. Nope, not yet. I caught a couple of bass during the day, but I haven't really caught anything at night. There's like a little ting over there on the other pole, but the problem is that's most likely a gar, and I'm not really interested in catching gar. Yeah, so right now, like the situation is as usual. Like Trump is trying to bluff his way out, but Iran is not listening to his bluff. So since Iran is not listening to his bluff, things are pretty complex and they're really really bad for us. That's the issue right now. They're really bad for us because no one's actually listening to his bluff. Hopefully, people start listening to his bluff because otherwise like things are gonna get like because like if he continues in with this war, it's bad. How could they control the Red Sea even? They don't really have to control it. It's just that the US can't actually protect ships through the Red Sea. The Red Sea is not that big. So the Red Sea is not that big, so it's well within range of Iranian missiles and drones. So like all they have to do is like say like we're gonna shoot at stuff that comes through the Red Sea, and that will actually instill enough fear for people actually like to not want to navigate in the Red Sea. It's not so much the fact that Iran has full control over these areas, it's more the fact that the US can't protect vessels that go through these areas. That's the main issue here. The US cannot protect vessels that go through these areas. And like the Red Sea carries about twice as much stuff going to going through the world's like oil stuff as like the Strait of Hormuz. So if Hormuz is like squeezing a little bit, then the Red Sea stuff is going to squeeze a lot, like a whole lot. And yeah, like if you have oil stocks, you're probably pretty happy. But if you don't have oil stocks, this is like not good for you if you do not have oil stocks. It's very very bad for you actually if you don't have oil stocks. It's like it's definitely no bueno for you if you don't have oil stocks. You're like screwed. Oil is down today because Trump keeps on giving assurances that like the war is going to end soon. I mean, it's still like over $90. Like he keeps on giving assurances that the war is going to end soon. Because like that's the thing, like he has to assure the world that the war is going to end soon. Even if there's like really very little chance that it does, he has to give assurances. Because if he doesn't give assurances, everything falls apart, and politically he basically just dies. I mean, politically Trump's pretty much dead anyways. But like, he needs to like keep the hope. He needs to keep he needs to keep the hope alive for people. Like because most likely, like Europe and the Gulf states are right. This probably isn't going to resolve. Like most likely, Europe and the Gulf states are right. This war is probably not going to resolve until like 6 months from now. He's not pumping the price up. Stop with your nonsense. He's not good for any of the markets. Like he's basically trying to assure people that the war is going to end. I mean, he's lying, but like he's trying to assure people that like the war is going to end. And obviously the markets are buying it because they desperately want to buy it. But he's lying though. And it could like if it goes on for like, but if it goes on for more than a month, he won't be able to lie his way out of it, and he might actually have to cave. 'Cause, like, if there's actually food shortages around the world if there's actually food shortages around the world, then, like, there's gonna be a bunch of issues. Yeah, I mean, he is trying to pump the stock markets up. I mean, here he's actually like he's trying to like basically counteract the crisis that he actually created. Because without him, we wouldn't actually be in this crisis. And we wouldn't have to keep having these pumps up because like it's constantly trying to fall. I mean, it's directly his fault that the oil is this high. And like that threatens to collapse the entire market because of stuff he's done. Has over 50,000 troops in the Middle East, just a nothing burger. I mean, but we only really have like 8 or 9 more thousand troops we can deploy to the Persian Gulf. And like, how many troops we actually had in Iraq? We had 150,000, 200,000. We had like 150,000 to 200,000. Thanks, man. Thanks for the donation. Like we had like 200,000 troops in Iraq. Like whatever we have there is not enough. And Iran's much stronger than Iraq. And yes, we did destroy the Iraqi military as well. Like, before we sent any land troops in, or we destroyed them as much as possible, but there's still a lot of casualties. Like Trump doesn't want to invade, but he's also not going to be able to take over anything unless he invades. So there's a lot of conflicts of interest around this. There's a lot of conflict of interest. And realistically, there's nothing that he can do to get out of this situation. There's absolutely nothing he can do to get out of the situation. Because like if he withdraws and bails, he looks weak. Dude, he's not carrying crypto, dude, because we'd be fine without him. We'd be much higher with Harris because we wouldn't be in this war. Dude, as much as like you want to shill Trump, we would be higher. Our crypto prices would be higher without Trump. Prices would be much higher right now without Trump. Because like we wouldn't even be in this situation without him at this point. He's the one that got us in this situation. So like you don't really get credit. He doesn't really get credit for like a problem that he created in the first place. There's the 4-year cycle, but we would have went a lot higher under basically anyone else. Because he's the one that like caused he's kind of the one that killed like the bull run with the tariffs. So like we would have probably went to like 150, maybe 160 with someone else. And then after that, like we might have crashed down, but we also wouldn't really be involved in this war. I mean, the stock market wouldn't be any lower because yes, he's like continuously trying to pump the stock market up, but we wouldn't have lost all those points if he hadn't gotten us in this war. And plus, like if he wasn't president, if like Harris or someone else was president, the interest rates would be lower because without the tariffs, Powell would have been more likely to actually lower interest rates. So like the overall macroeconomic situation would actually be better, both for like the overall market and crypto. Like you can't say like he's carrying crypto because like he created the situation where crypto would dump a lot, and then like he's trying to fix it. Powell isn't playing politics. Like he actually said he would cut about 3 times last year, and he actually did cut 3 times last year. There was really no reason for him to cut anymore. Like I mean, if you're like super pro Trump, you obviously wanted him to cut more because like you wanted him to play along with Trump's game, which probably wasn't that great of a plan. I think the new SEC commissioner has a bunch of like Solana Ethereum. Yeah, he did cut 3 times, but Trump didn't really create the situation for it to pump. Because like if you really wanted a rate cut, you wouldn't have done tariffs. Pretty straight up. If you didn't want a rate cut, if you wanted a rate cut, you wouldn't have done tariffs because tariffs are dumb. If you want a rate cut, like why? The whole plan of like I really want a bunch of rate cuts and then doing tariffs makes like absolutely no sense at all. The whole plan of like doing tariffs when you want a rate cut makes no sense. And the whole thing of like fighting a war with Iran and making gas prices go up, that doesn't make any sense at all either. I mean, tariffs did make the producer price index go up, but now you're actually seeing like the overall effect though, because the only reason that prices stayed kind of low was because gas prices were low. But now since he got rid of the gas prices were low part, you're really going to see the effect of tariffs. They're like things are going to get like doubly more expensive now that the gas prices aren't low anymore. Yeah, I have a lot of sunscreen on because I was out like during the day, so I always use a lot of sunscreen. It doesn't just disappear at night. But like basically like he created this problem that didn't exist. And now you want to say that he's carrying us. He's not because we would be in a better position if he just didn't do anything. So what's the positive? The positive news is once again Trump is continuously trying to assure people. I mean, he's lying, but he's just trying to assure people that the war is going to end soon. The negative part is that Iran, like one of Iran's commanders, has warned people to be careful while trying to get into the Red Sea, which means he's really thinking about shutting down the Red Sea. If he's really thinking about shutting down the Red Sea, that could cause a lot of turmoil. Because remember, Iran's structure is kind of like decentralized right now. Iran's like command structure is like really kind of decentralized at this point. So killing like one or two of their commanders is kind of irrelevant because overall, like they can just replace them, and you're not going to get rid of the regime. And like the IRGC, the IRGC is going to remain in power regardless. So I mean, like the main like the objectives of the war is not going to be achieved from the beginning. Because like remember, like a month ago, the objective of the war was like unconditional surrender, and now we're like we're not talking about unconditional surrender. We're talking about opening up the strait while relieving sanctions on Iran, and maybe even some reparations, and like obviously getting rid of their nuclear program. Basically the same agreement that Obama had, except like worse because we still had sanctions on them with the solution that Obama had. But now, like, we're gonna have to we have to make some concessions for them to get rid of the nuclear program. Which honestly I don't really care that much about. I don't think like Europe is not really demanding that they get rid of the nuclear program at this point. Europe is like, just open the damn strait. I think like pretty much everyone besides the Persian Gulf states and the United States is like, open the damn strait. We don't really care anymore. Obviously, Israel has like their own plans. Israel definitely has their own plans. But like like the rest of the world just like open the strait. But Israel has also not really won anything in this war because like their standing and their diplomatic status in the world has basically just like tanked through the floor because of this war. Israel's diplomatic status and diplomatic standing has like basically gone from like positive to like super negative. And like next time they want help from anyone, like no, like basically no people, no one's gonna answer. And if like I bet if like you know if there's like an attack on Israel, no one's really gonna care next time because like I think they're just like I think other countries are just so thoroughly disgusted with them. I think that's really just to cozy up to the United States, but like especially like Europe and their traditional allies that have helped them in the past, they're not going to help them anymore. The Gulf states don't really have that much power. Like I think they're saying these things out front, but like behind closed doors, they probably hate Trump and what they're doing because like it directly threatens their interest, and there's like no benefit to them. Because they're like because they are inadvertently being dragged into this war. They're completely inadvertently being dragged into this war. It's really not their choice to be in here. Because like they have like U.S. bases and U.S. assets, and like the thing is like countries in that region in the future might actually not be that willing to host like U.S. bases and U.S. assets because of this. Because they know that like if there's a future conflict, and there's very likely to be a future conflict, like those assets in their countries are going to be the ones that are targeted. And that's also kind of like what this conflict has told people, like, "Hey, if you host US assets, your country's gonna be attacked next time we have a conflict." And of course, the greater Israel thing just isn't going to work, which is really what Israel wants. So yeah, I mean, like, I don't think like the plan just doesn't. The plan just is not going well for like any of the parties. I mean, obviously, Iran has to rebuild, like especially with the IRGC and everything. Israel's lost a lot of diplomatic standing. In the U.S., I think like countries in the Middle East are just going to be less willing to host like U.S. assets in the future because they don't want to be attacked. Like if you don't host any U.S. assets in the future, you don't really get attacked. But if you do, then I mean, like, and they know that like in the future, there's probably going to be more future conflict. It's like I don't think anyone's under the delusion that this is going to be the last conflict in the Middle East between U.S. and whatever Middle Eastern power is there. Like they know they can't really defend themselves, and the U.S. really can't defend them either. Because like the U.S., if they send their fleet in there, we have to defend our own fleet. So like the number of missiles is like really limited. Like the number of interceptor missiles is extremely limited as to like what we can actually dedicate to defend allies. Anything over there? Nope. Maybe it's a small fish and just not ringing anymore, but whatever. Yeah, the fishing's been kind of disappointing. This lake is usually pretty good, but I've never really fished it when the water's this high. And usually like they start biting at dark, but they haven't really bit yet today. But then again, like it's quite a bit warmer here than when I usually fish here, so it's a different time of the year. I just want BTC to drop ASAP. It's almost May, so the sell in May and go away thing might still hold, though. Is the thing. Like sell in May and go away still definitely might hold. I wouldn't give up on that yet, because usually, like I didn't believe that for the last couple of years, but it always happened. We were doing a blockade, and Iran hasn't done anything about it besides making threats. That's because we still have a ceasefire until Tuesday. I mean, like until like Israel Lebanon had the ceasefire, like Israel, like Tel Aviv was still getting hit by missiles, like not that many, but they were still getting hit. Like we've blockaded them, but we actually haven't like the U.S. hasn't shot any missiles into Iran for like a week or two either. So like they're kind of keeping the ceasefire between Iran and the U.S., but it kind of expires on Tuesday. Trump says he's willing to expand it, but without a deal, I'm not really sure if they'd be willing to expand it. But and also like I said, like like our blockade of their blockade doesn't actually solve the problem. Like nothing, like still like nothing's like, the oil tankers still are not getting through, and that's why the price of oil remains high. And that's why like Europe and the Gulf states are thinking like 6 months, 6 months for this to actually get resolved, and for like the Strait to like for a peace treaty. No, it really doesn't though, because like no one else's oil can leave ports either. Like the U.S. doesn't have, we don't have control of the Strait. We can prevent their ships from going through the Strait. We can prevent their ships, but like we can't actually like ensure other people can go through the Strait. It does not solve the. It does not. It doesn't solve the energy problem. And they're still not. They're like still not really willing to negotiate. Is the thing. I think like all this like everyone's like like people's premise is like, hey, if we do this, then they have to negotiate. But so far, so far like that kind of thought has been wrong because they're not willing to negotiate. Like that premise has so far not been correct that you can bring them to heel, but because they're not. I mean, they're just not. A ton of bearish division for BTC. I mean, right now, I think right now. I do think like things are just holding stable because people are waiting to see what goes next. But I think if the ceasefire expires on Tuesday, I think if ceasefire expires on Tuesday and there's no agreement and they start shooting again, it's gonna go down. I think Russia. I think China will support him or Russia, one of those two. Like Trump threatened like 50% tariffs on like China or something for supporting Iran, but realistically, the threats really aren't going to work all that well. And there have been Chinese tankers that have been sailing through the strait, just under different flags. Yes, placing sanctions on all banks or people that hold and deal Iran's money. Yeah, but you're also assuming that choking them off financially will get them to surrender. That, that's not like, that's really not happening. I think all those calculations have basically gone out the window. Like they thought it would be an easy win, but it's not. Yeah, but two of them have actually gotten two of them have actually gotten through. They were flying different flags though. Yeah, I'm alive on my iPhone. Like I think it's I think if they got no money, they can't. They have not. They still have like thousands of missiles. The fact that like the U.S. isn't able to open up the strait, the fact that the U.S. isn't able to open up the strait is already a failure. Because like yeah, you can block them, prevent from getting money, but they still have a huge stock of missiles. China and Russia are probably like China and Russia are probably giving more, and they still have enough to hit things in the strait, so you can't open the strait. Because politically, they can survive. Like Iran can survive a lot longer than like the U.S. can. Because like once like they can actually play this out for another 6 months, have midterms happen, and then basically the GOP's at this rate, the GOP is pretty much guaranteed to lose the midterms in a landslide. And then once the Democrats actually have a majority, they'll stop the stuff in they'll stop the war. Yeah, that's because almost nothing's going through the strait. There's like 2 ships a day going through the strait. Like no one's even trying anymore. Like the traffic is more than 90% down from the pre-war levels. Because like no one really wants to pay the insurance, and like none of the ship captains really want to take the risk. So Iran's like already achieved their goal without firing too many missiles. And if like one of their commanders decides to like issue the same threat for the Red Sea, that's going to cause a ton of problems. Because as soon as one ship gets hit, no one else wants to go through. Ceasefire, are they still going? Oopsies. They're playing nice right now, but I don't think you can depend on them to actually keep the ceasefire. And oil price is going to be stuck in this range until you can actually have safe passage through the strait. They understand. Look, like Iran knows how our political cycle works. They know that if they hold out for another half year, Trump basically is going to lose the majority in both the House and the Senate. And once that happens, like the other party is basically going to stop this war because the Democrats are not like the Democrats are nowhere near as pro-Israel as the Republicans, and Israel's image on the world stage has basically been shot. So it's not like they're going to draw the ire of like the other nations if they just were like, hey, we just got to withdraw. Because they want like there was a bill to limit Trump's power in this Iran war, but it failed by one vote. But once like you lose the majorities, that's not going to be the case anymore. So like he has to resolve this before midterms. And even if he does resolve this before midterms, his party is still going to get wiped out in the election, especially if oil stays high for like the next 6 months. Because right now, yeah, it's settled in the mid 90s because you're balancing your hopium versus reality. But if you don't get any results, that tilt is always going to tilt towards reality instead of hopium after a while. Especially if the Red Sea stuff comes into play. Stay high at 80 for the rest of the year, most likely. Well, I mean, it's still like low 90s right now, and really, like what it does is what like where oil goes is totally highly dependent on like whether like people believe that he can make a deal or not. Once if Wall Street and like the general public stops believing that he can actually make a deal, it's going to go up. And the actual price of going through the strait is higher than 100 right now. Like one of the like some of the oil execs have said it's like 140 or something right now because there's so few things that can go through the strait. America can't supply the rest of the world, even though like America can sell more gas now, and it's still a lot farther to America than is just going through the strait. So logistically, like oil's just going to cost more money, and since like everything's priced to the and since everything is actually priced to the global market, you're kind of just stuck with a high price. Is the create problem, bully them, force them to give what he wants? It's not a deal, it's extortion. Well, except the extortion's not really working this time because the deal that he's willing to give Iran is already like better for them than Obama's deal that he tore up last term. Because like right now, if we want the Strait to open, we have to like lift sanctions on Iran, and that wasn't part of the Obama deal. So like, there's not really a way that he can spin this as him winning at this point. Just saying he's not a deal maker. Of course he's not a deal maker. He's never really been a deal maker. I mean, the only deal maker he's really been on is on the TV show The Apprentice, and that's a TV show. If you look at back his business transactions and like the lawsuits he fights against other people, he always fights against people with like not that many financial resources. Anytime like the other side's actually hired a lawyer and actually challenged him, he's essentially lost the case. It's the same thing. Like he knows that America is the most powerful country in the world, so he's trying to leverage that as much as he can. But the thing is, like drawing the ire of other countries and killing all our soft power is not like a great idea. And also, like you kind of hit like an opponent that just won't fold. You've basically hit an opponent that just won't fold. So you're kind of in like a really tough situation this time because you essentially like essentially like you essentially assumed that, like, everyone would fold to you, but when someone doesn't, you don't really have another plan. But it's also costing America a lot of money to just keep the troops out there. And obviously, it's not very popular with, like, the public. Declare he won the Iran then move to invade Cuba. I mean, he could try to do that, but no one's gonna believe him. I mean, MAGA will believe him, but no one else is gonna really believe him. Because like, right now, like, even if they do right even if they sign the terms right now, it's still gonna be worse than Obama's deal. What do you think AMC stock is 160? AMC seems to be more of a pump and dump stock at this point. I don't actually think AMC is like anything else besides a pump and dump at this point. It's kind of been that way since the whole GME AMC thing. AMC is better than GME as a company, but still, dude, he's not gonna go after Greenland because Greenland's a NATO territory, and Denmark has like zero interest in giving it to him. I think like Trump knows like deep down Trump knows his own approval rating is bad, so he's like looking for random stuff to boost up his approval rating. But since he doesn't actually know how to handle this stuff, he's just making it worse. Because essentially pissing off our allies and like trying to like declare war on everyone, or trying to like create global conflicts to up your approval rating, that doesn't really work. Because ultimately, like if someone attacked us, and under Bush, like 9/11, that actually improved his approval rating because like that's like the country rallying around him. No one's gonna rally around you if you go attack someone else. That's really not how Americans work. Like your hardcore followers will rally around you, but no one else is gonna rally around you if you just go attack someone else. Look, I personally wouldn't want to play with GME and AMC stocks, but that's really your choice. That's really your choice. Like, I personally wouldn't wanna play around with GME and AMC. I think those are kind of like I think those are, like, just those are just definitely just pump and dumps. GME, I don't like, for GME, I don't really see how their business plan works at all. For AMC, it's not much better. Their business plan is like their business is a little bit better, but it's still like kind of like a dying. It's not like an improving. It's not an improving niche in any way, shape, or form. So, like, you can try to guess which way Wall Street bets. If you want to like guess which way Wall Street bets is going to play, have at it. That's your choice. I'm just really not super interested in like betting on like on the Wall Street Bets group. I'm really not interested in that because I mean, that's not really a long-term plan. That's basically like, oh, which way is this like pump and dump group going to go? I do understand like people getting desperate and doing that these days. I just don't think it's a great plan. I think it's actually a pretty horrible plan. But that's kind of just my opinion. There's a lot more like bugs and noises here than there are in the winter, man. Lively here. A lot of beetles flying around. A lot of like there's like a lot of ants with wings and shit. Kinda weird, like, I'm almost never back in St. Louis at this time of the year. I've been here in the summer once, but I'm usually at the platform if I do that. But yeah. But you can also tell about, like the mosquitoes aren't too bad yet. Like, you can tell by the a number of people in chat right now that, like, crypto isn't really that popular. Because like, if crypto was popular, it'd be, like, 200 people in chat. Right now, there's, like, 30. I mean, I am streaming quite a bit earlier than I usually do, but, like, still, like, you'd attract almost 200 people in chat if, like, crypto was actually popular right now. And that just tells you that the retail people aren't here. That's all that's what that really tells you. That just tells you that retail is not here at all, whatsoever. We need retail to, like, come back. We 100% need retail to come back if we wanna pump. Yeah, they probably are termites. There's a lot of, like there's no houses or anything, but there's, like, a lot of, like, dead wood and stuff. Yeah, I mean, like, Cowan knows what he's talking about when it comes to that. Because, like, when you see like 30, 40 people in this chat, right? It's not so much that retail doesn't have discretionary spending. It's just that retail is not interested in crypto. Retail has plenty of money. I mean, they're still betting on prediction markets. Up or down because the stock market at all time highs. I think the stock market might stay around all time highs until Trump has another announcement or like they start shooting at each other again. Because right now, like I said, like the market and to an extent crypto is like stuck in it's kind of like stuck in between like hopium and reality. They're like really banking on the hopium, but reality is kind of pulling them back. They're like super super banking on the hopium that like some kind of deal will actually be struck. But they can't get away from the fact that like they can't really get Iran to like just agree to what they want, or Trump can't. And even his concessions really don't. And even like his concessions, I'm still bullish on hype. I think hype is pretty good overall. I think that's like hype is probably like the only crypto I'm really bullish on right now. Everything else I'm either neutral or bearish on. Hype I'm actually kind of bullish on. Because like hype I think can do well even in a crypto bear market. It's just serves so many different markets and there's such a demand for that stuff. So I like that one. Everything else I'm not such a huge fan of right now. Because I think eventually, like between hopium and reality, unless like there's actually a deal being made, I think it'll tilt back towards reality eventually. Yeah. You have a good one too, man. You have a good one. Because you can't. I don't think you can keep fooling people forever if you don't actually make a deal. I mean, I guess you could. He's fooling them for a month, but a month is a pretty short period of time. When it gets to like 3, 4, 5 months, it might get kind of hard. and people might not be ouch, people not might not be as willing to listen to you, like, given, like, if you, if it's that much time instead of just, like, a small bit of time. I also wonder where the hell the catfish are because I catch a bunch of them here in, like, in the fall, in the same position. It's throwing to the same spot, but, like, right now, nothing's actually hit. ICP, can it come back? I mean, there are, like, ICP bowls. I'm not a huge ICP fan. The main thing about ICP is that, like, they host their own apps. I'm not sure how many people actually care about that. I mean, it should be a pretty big advantage, but realistically, investment-wise, doesn't seem like that many people care. So, like, I think it does have, like, I think it does have some followers, but it depends on the market as well. Also, I think ICP just got a bad rap because it debuted way too high. It literally debuted at, like, $700, and it was not worth anywhere near $700. Yeah, it debuted near $700. It's nowhere near seven. It's not worth anywhere near $700, and that was basically, I think, like SBF's doing as well. So after it dumped from like $700 to like whatever the hell it is now, like people just don't really trust it all that much anymore. That was because that was like a lot of money lost. That was a ton of money lost. All right, guys, that's gonna be it for tonight. I'm kind of out right now, and I want to get ready in case there's like a fish. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night, folks. I haven't caught anything tonight yet, no.